Okay, so let's take a look at this. Boy, right out of the gate, first two questions, probability. What's the probability of selecting a red marble or a blue marble? Well, we know the probability of an or means we're adding them up, right? And so when I add those up, I get letter B. Question number 2 says, what's the probability that a student selected at random from the class on Thursday is in group number 4? Well, group number 4, I kind of wrote the numbers of how many were in each of the graphs, right? Well, group number 4 is only 2 people. And if I add all these up, there's a total of 28. So it's 2 out of 28, which is really 1/4. So first two questions, right with probability. Like, hey, they're serious. There's gonna be a lot of probability questions. I think this test had, 4. Okay, question number 3, a couple ways to do it. And the wording on this was really pretty awful for number 3, I thought. Consider this equation. For what value of j is the value of k equal to 40? Like stringing those two variables together, kind of rough. But just look here, k equal to 40. So I just changed the letter k to be a 40. Then solve the equation. Now, there is another way you could do this, right? If you didn't want to solve the equation, what you could do is use your calculator and plug a value in for j. Like, remember how these numbers are in increasing order? So I chose like this one and I plugged it in. And when I did this on my calculator, I got something that was too big. So that meant that all the other ones below it were also too big. So then I tried -10, and sure enough, when I did it, it gave me a 40. No way to think about it. Okay, question 4. Please, when you see an absolute value question, eliminate the negative answers. I hate seeing people get this one wrong, especially like, remember I said it was the most commonly missed question last year in Olathe? So many people said -5. It's like absolute value doesn't give you a negative answer. So it should be +5. Question number 5. I like drawing a picture. When I saw temperature, I kind of thought of like a thermometer, right? And we were told that when we awoke, it was -16 degrees, and when we were asleep, it was 24 degrees. You got to be careful because you could pick the exact wrong answer here. The question says, what was the change in temperature from the time Tyrese fell asleep until the time he awoke? So what was the change in temperature from asleep to awoke? -40. It'd be so easy to go the opposite way and say letter E, +40. Be careful there. 6, we got someone buying a car. They want to know how much more they paid by doing payments. And the reason why you do payments, because generally speaking, a lot of people don't have this much money just laying around to buy a car. They've got to take out a loan for it. Well, we had a $1,000 down payment. And then we had 28 payments of $200 each. Well, that adds up to $6,600. Well, the car only cost $5,400, and I'm assuming that $5,400 was tax and everything, right? Well, the difference is $1,200. We're going to pay $1,200 more dollars. Okay. Number 7, they're asking if you're the perimeter of the hexagon, and you're like, what's going on here? Okay, there's a couple ways you could do this one. One way is you could do like, you know what? This bad boy is drawn to scale. We're told that distance is 4. And when I line it up, I could see that each of these, this side here is the same measurement. It's also 4. Nothing wrong with doing it like that. And then doing 6 times 4. If you want to use some geometry, you could draw a bunch of these dashed lines in here and realize, wow, there's a whole bunch of triangles in here. And there's 6 of them. And I know like in a circle, the angle should be 360. Well, 360 divided by 6 is 60. So this angle is 60. In fact, all those angles are 60, which makes it equilaterals, which makes all the sides are equal to 4. By the time you're done doing all that, I think the person that just measured it and saw the side was 4 is already on to question number 8. All right. So measuring, it's to scale. It's really quick. Okay, number 8 asks for the area of this. So again, it involves drawing an auxiliary line. I drew a line across here so I could find the area of these two rectangles. Like this bottom rectangle here is just 50 times 22, right? To get this top one, I got this 18 because 40 was the whole thing and 22 was this little piece left over. So the difference of those is 18, right? So 18 times 22, use the calculator, letter J. Question 9, they give us a graph, so you better plot those points out first. I plotted them out, and then I glanced at my answers, and I'm like, okay, which one of those shapes does it look most like? Well, it's definitely not a square, doesn't look like a rectangle. No on the parallelogram. A kite, it sure doesn't look like we could fly that. It's letter C, trapezoid. I'm not going to go through the testing that these two sides are parallel. We don't need to. We've eliminated it and gotten it down to there. Okay, so 10 is the first stinker of a question in the first 20, right? Camera's messing up. Okay, so this is a composition of functions. And the way we evaluate this is we do the inside first, get an answer, and then we do the outside next. So function g evaluated at 4, what that means is take function g and put a 4 in for the x. When I do that, I get 8. So g of 4 is really equal to 8. So now let's take the 8 and find out what f of 8 is. So I'm going to take function f and plug an 8 into it. Well, that gives me 31. Now, there is a way to do this on your calculator, okay? What you could do is inside of y1, I could type in 3x plus 7. Whoops, I said in y1, right? In y1, I could do 3x plus 7. And in, oh, fight, am I recording? I'm hoping. Yeah, I am. Okay. And then in y2, I'm going to plug in, I'm going to do that fraction. What is that fraction? Alpha y equals x squared over 2. I'm not saying this is the fastest way. If these were functions were a little more complicated, might work a little better, a little more efficient on it. They're asking for what is f of g of 4. Well, that's really just, if I use this notation, right, this, and I can type that in. I can go alpha trace and do y1, parenthesis, alpha trace, y2, parenthesis, 4. And we should get 31 for an answer. Yep. So calculator does composition of functions. It eats up a little bit of time doing it though. So if you're having trouble with composition of functions, no reason why you couldn't use your calculator to get the answer. Remember, you can use it on all the math questions. Okay, let's look at 11. 11 deals with the hot dog stand. I love hot dogs. What you should do is when you're working this out, first of all, glance at the answers. It'll give you a clue. You're like, okay, they're either adding or subtracting, and it's either greater than or less than 0. So it says, how many hot dogs should Julie sell per month and make a profit? Well, income minus expenses, that's what profit is, right? You want to take in more money than you have to spend. That way you've got money left over. So, and that has to be greater than 0. So I know it's got to be greater than 0. So I could safely eliminate B and D because those are not greater than 0. Now, the income, it says $2 for every hot dog. So I said that's going to be 2H. And then the expense is just, the supplies just cost $200 a month. So minus 200. Here's our inequality. There it is, letter E. Okay, finally, number 12, we get to an algebra 1 problem. What's the slope? Well, solve for y. And remember, y equals mx plus b. So m is negative 3/8. And in algebra 1, that's what we're doing right now. Okay, 13. Yes, we could solve this system of equations by doing the traditional way. But since we're given answers, trial and error is always pretty nice. So if I thought x, here, x is negative 6 and y is a 4, right? So this would be negative 6 plus 8. And that does add up to be 2. Great. And then over here, negative 6 times negative 2 is positive 12 plus 4 is 6. Oh, that's it. Letter A. trial and error is a great way to go through things pretty quick. 14, there are 3 different ways to do this, okay? So let me show you a pretty interesting way, and then a traditional way, and then another way. So on a map, we're told a quarter inch is 16 miles, and we don't know how far apart this is. Well, one way you could do is see, how many of those quarter inches go into 2 3/4. There's 11 of those bad boys, and each of those is equal to 16 miles. So we could do 11 times 16 and get 176. The people that score really high on the ACT kind of think of things kind of like this. Because what I would do, like the way you teach it in chemistry, right? Dimensional analysis. We're told that, 1/4 of an inch is equal to 16 miles. So I would do my dimensional analysis to figure it out. Or we could compare inches to miles, right? 1/4 of an inch is equal to 16 miles. Well, then 2 3/4 inches equal how many miles? Cross multiply and get it. 3 different ways to go about it. Not too bad. 15, we're multiplying this matrix by 4. So that means multiply all those numbers by 4. So I'm just going to do the top one. 4 times -1 is -4. That top corner should be -4. E is the only one. So got to be letter E. Backside, number 16. Hang on a second. So the backside, we're dealing with trigonometry, so it's tangents. So I wrote down SOHCAHTOA, and we're trying to find a tangent of angle A. Well, opposite over adjacent, right? 15 over 8. There it is. 17, another unit conversion question, just like we had earlier. We're told Tina ran a rate of 8 miles per hour. How far would she run in 12 minutes? Well, you could do conversions, right? Convert the 12 minutes into hours, and then convert the hours into miles. Or, you know what? How many times does 12 minutes go into an hour? I think 5 of them. So you could just do 8 divided by 5. Kind of quick also. Mr. Williams, I'm almost there.
No rush.
Number 18, another function analysis question, right? What's the answer when you plug a -3 in? I would really encourage you to use your calculator to evaluate this. It's too easy to make a mistake. I've seen people say -3 to the second power is -9. I've seen people do -6 times -3 first. Plug it in, and whenever you substitute stuff in, make sure you got these stupid parentheses in, okay? Don't forget those, because without the parentheses, you're going to get something wrong for an answer. It's not going to come out right. It'll be one of these other ones, and you'll feel really good about yourself, but you'll feel good for the wrong reasons because it's the wrong answer. 19. In the figure below, we got to figure out what the measure of angle ABC is. ABC. Well, I'm looking at that angle there. That angle definitely looks to me like it's smaller than 45 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and eliminate D and E. I'm kind of hesitant about getting rid of the 45, but I think we probably could. But well, I know the answer is B, so we probably definitely could get rid of it. But there's a quick way to do it. These lines are parallel, right? We're told A is on BE and C is on B. What is the measure of this? See these 2 lines here, they're perpendicular. So that means they're parallel. And the thing is on ACT, things are drawn to scale perfectly. If things look parallel, they are. So these are parallel. So that means this angle that's 132, so is that one. So we've got a triangle here. If this is 132, I know the angle on this side has to be 48 because they make a nice straight line. We'll talk more about that tomorrow. But if I subtract these 2 angles that I know from 180, we will get 42. Okay, last question. Number 20. It's an input-output calculator question. I think we saw one of these yesterday, actually. So I'm going to take the information and put it into an input-output. Remember, slope, right? It's a change in the output over the change in input. Sometimes you think about it being the change in Y over the change in X, right? any way you want to think about it. Well, it's going to be 4/10, which is 2/5. If we look at the choices, there's only one of them where the slope is 2/5. Notice they've got the reciprocal one here trying to trip you up. All right, Mr. Williams, I am done.
Okay.